My name's Sophie Jones and I'm with the organisation Penny-Bron UK. We've been running an event for people living with and beyond cancer and for their supporters as well. We've been providing support for people for the wider impact of a cancer diagnosis in their life. So they are supported by their medical team for actually treating the cancer itself, but cancer can affect people in so many different ways, and so we're really here to help people to be able to understand and reflect on all those ways in which cancer has affected them, and to understand the ways in which they might be able to do things to support themselves, small practical steps that they can take to support themselves to live well with cancer.
I represent the Hospital Trust and the two hospitals that are across Staffordshire, so Royal Stoke University Hospital and County Hospital in Stafford. And my role in the Trust is very much about making sure that anything that comes along that will make the pathway better for people with cancer, i.e. from a quality point of view. So not always the treatment, but the other things that we're talking about here today, which is about people socially, physically, what they're eating, how they are emotionally, trying to sort those things out. So some of my jobs is about the quality initiatives. So the recovery package is something that's been talked about nationally for a long, long time, and Health and Wellbeing events, or these living with and beyond cancer events, is something key to the recovery package to make it better for people to live with and beyond their cancer.
My name is Chris Corden. I'm from Disability Solutions, a charity based in Hartshill at North Staffordshire Medical Institute. I'm hoping to promote the service to enable as many people to know that we're available for them who want to use the service. It's a free service, and basically to spread the news that we are here to help with financial matters.
My name's Helen Farmer and I represent North Staffs Carers. North Staffs Carers is a charity we've been running for about 30 years now, and we support non-paid carers from the age of 8 upwards across the whole of North Staffordshire.
My name's Danny and I'm from Everyone Health. We offer behaviour change lifestyle advice to anybody eligible in Staffordshire. So we offer sessions around physical activity, falls prevention, nutrition, weight management and social isolation.
My name is George Gay and I work for Inspiring Healthy Lifestyles. We're a charitable trust and we work across Staffordshire really, but mainly in Cannock and Rugeley, and we do work with the public. So we've got leisure centres, we've got a theatre, we've got a golf course, and it's mainly about, our sort of philosophy is to get people active and get people thinking about the arts and get people moving really. My particular role is getting people active if they've had a health issue. So whether they've recovered from cancer or whether they've had a respiratory disease, whether they've had a heart attack or maybe a bit of arthritis, or even if they aren't doing anything particularly and they just need to move more. We work with the GP surgeries and the hospitals to get people active and moving.
I work for the Beth Johnson Foundation based in Stoke on the Cancer Support Programme, and my name's Caroline Bradford. Part of my role is to be aware of what's going on in the community and what's going on for people to access. So I learn something new every time and utilise that in my work and pass that information on to the patients at the other end.
My name's Helena Tranter and I work for the Carers Hub. We are the commission service to provide carers assessments for any carer, so that's somebody that's looking after a member of their family or a friend or a neighbour, because that person can't manage for themselves due to old age, illness or disability. The eligibility criteria is that the cared for person needs to live in Staffordshire or Stoke-on-Trent, but the carer can actually live anywhere, but the cared for person needs to live within that locality. It's very carer-led. So when we've done our assessment, we look at how caring may be impacting upon that person. So we look at how caring may be impacting upon their physical health, upon their emotional well-being, which is why I like what's been going on here today around well-being, on their ability maybe to maintain a job or volunteering or education, or their ability to get time away from their caring role. So we look at all of those different things and then see what comes from that. Generally what you tend to get from that is a care plan, and on that care plan we'll have some care plan tasks for the things that we've agreed to work with that individual to help them achieve, to maintain their well-being.
Good morning. A couple of introductions. My name's Jane Hunt. I am a facilitator for Penny-Bron UK. and will sort of lead the event this morning, but there are other people for you to listen to who don't have my horrible Birmingham accent, so I'll apologise for it now. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. Thank you. That's very kind. So have I. A couple of other speakers we'll have. Jackie Miller is here, who is a cancer nurse specialist, clinical nurse specialist. She's going to be talking to you about the medical side of things, and she's going to follow on from me when I've done this. And George Gay, who's at the back, is our energetic activity person. And he'll be doing some gentle, I promise you, he's not allowed to do strenuous exercise with you, but some nice gentle exercise to just show you how you can do that sort of thing relatively easily with no problems. So those are the introductions. This is a joint venture event that is with the University Hospitals of North Midlands, and I always have to remember to get those words in the right order. Penny Bron UK, who's up there, and then Macmillan Cancer Support. So there's a combination of organisations that are joined together. Just to let you know, Penny Bron UK is a charity. It's not a company. Other people have said to us in the past, oh, do you charge for this? And do you come along and make people pay to sort of have this sort of thing? The answer is no. Our services are free at the point of use, and we are a charity that's based in Bristol. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Penny Bron UK later in the morning. Has anybody heard of Penny Bron before you came? Oh, I like it when I get 2 or 3 hands up. That's fantastic. Well, you'll hear a little bit more about us as we go on. We're also going to give you the opportunity to meet other people who may have something in common with you. It may be a small thing they've got in common with you, but we'd like you to meet other people and share as much as you feel like sharing. Just one point is, you don't have to share anything in this room you don't want to. You don't have to tell us anything. You don't have to do anything. It's up to you to make those decisions. Is that okay with everyone? Good. Okay, I'm now going to give you just a short 5 minutes, well, a reasonable size 5 minutes, to get to know somebody that you might not know. So if you look around the room and see if you can see someone that you've never met before, or you might be interested in talking to, I want you to introduce yourself. Introduce yourself and talk about why you've come along today. Okay, 5 minutes.
Hello.
If anybody hasn't got someone, I'll talk. Okay, folks. You're so well behaved. I'm amazed. I ring those bells and it goes quiet. You make me feel quite guilty. So hopefully you've spoken to somebody you haven't met before. I'm going to hand over to Jacqueline in a minute, who is the nurse that's going to talk to you. There will be a slight pause now because I have to get unhooked from technology, and Jackie's going to be hooked up to the microphone. So you can just mutter on a little bit longer, and then and Jackie will take over. Is that okay?
So good morning. I just want to add my welcome to what's already been said, and it's really nice to see you all. And I know it's a brave thing to come, and time is precious, and you want to get on with life. But we really do feel that these days are of real benefit to you. So I really hope that you'll get something out of today. What I've been asked to do is to give you a little bit of a background to how these events have come about, really. And it's been years, really, of research and people working together with patients and looking at what people feel they need to live through and beyond their cancer journey. So it's been a collaboration, really, of the National Cancer Survivorship Initiative, Macmillan, the Department of Health, and it's been called a number of things until today we're known as Living with and Beyond Cancer. And what that actually means is there's an involvement of all sorts of people in these type of events. So it involves primary care, the GPs, the community services, the district nurses, the Macmillan nurses, the local council, CAB providers, charities, as we've heard today, Penny Bron, Beth Johnson, the hospitals, which is secondary care. There's a number of people that are involved in making all of this come about and looking at what is best and how we move forward. We've taken a lot of information from the National Cancer Patient Satisfaction Questionnaire. They've given us a lot of positive comments about the service, but one of the things that we did find was that patients often felt lost or abandoned at the end of treatment, often not knowing what was out there for support or who to go to or how they could find the help that was needed. And sometimes we find that surprising as health professionals because we feel like we bombard you with information, we give you so much information, but there's so much to process, and particularly when you've been through treatment, there's so much that you've gone through that it's often easy to forget, and you're in a different place. So, you know, at the end of treatment, it's a different place that you're in. So what do you need now? What is it the things that you're looking for at this period of time in your life? As a trust, we've been running wellbeing events for site-specific cancers for a number of years now. And one of the things we did find was there was a common theme running through each site-specific tumour site. You know, there were certain things that were common for every type of cancer. One of the things we did recognise was it was often difficult to get people to come onto these events, and we were wondering, why is it that people didn't want to accept the invite to these sort of offers to come to a wellbeing event? So looking forward to the future, you know, we'd like to consolidate what we provide to be able to reach the greatest number of people and to understand what it is that you want and what you feel you need support in. We've got to balance that with the demand on the NHS and the services and the capacity that we have. But actually we're starting today. You know, we're here today. So we would really value your thoughts, your input, your feedback as to what you feel that you would want. And so if you'd like to be involved, and we would very much hope that that would be the case, Debbie Maddox and Gwen Rylands, they're two people that I would put you in contact with if you felt like you'd like to help us in the future. But we really would like to know your thoughts from today. And I'm the nurse specialist for head and neck cancer, but I may not be the nurse specialist for your particular cancer. But if you have questions from today, then if you let me know, I will then take your questions back, or I'll get your nurse specialist to get in contact with you if there's anything that you would like to know from today. So does that sound okay? Yeah? Is there anything that anybody would like to ask right now, or are you happy to carry on with the rest of the day? Is everybody happy? Any questions at all? That's good, that's my job done.
Okay, so now we're going to go on and explore a little bit about Penny Bron's whole Bristol Whole Life approach. And I promised you earlier that I'd tell you a little bit about Penny Bron. Penny Bron was an actual person, and she developed breast cancer that was considered to be quite aggressive some 30-something years ago. And she and her friend Pat Pilkington, you might have heard of the Pilkington Trust and Pilkington family, she was married into that family, realised that although the doctors were giving Penny very good treatment and she was getting excellent attention from the medical team, that there wasn't any recognition that she wasn't just her body, she was lots of other things. She was her emotions, her mind, her spirit. And they explored that approach to living with and beyond cancer. And actually, it is quite a long story, and I won't bore you, but they ended up setting up a organisation, let's call it, in Bristol called Bristol Cancer Care. They developed that over a number of years and eventually moved it from, it was in a house it has actually moved now. We've got a very, very lovely building, a Georgian building, which has got a modern extension on the back in Pill in Bristol. And Penny went on to live for another 20 plus years with that approach and helping other people. The organisation Charity changed its name to Penny Bron after her death, so it is in honour of what she did. And her friend Pat Pilkington, who only died in very recent years, went on to promote the Penny Bron UK organisation around the Bristol area and then more latterly in the rest of the country. So we're in the process, and have been for the past 4 or 5 years, perhaps more, of spreading that word of Penny Bron throughout the regions. And in Staffordshire, there is this cooperation with the hospitals and with Macmillan that's allowed us to fund days like today and other things that we have. We have got a 2-day Living Well course where much of what we do today gets unpicked. That's coming up in June at the Catherine House Hospice. It's a weekend course, so anybody that's working or anybody that's got a problem with weekdays for whatever, we run that course over a Saturday and a Sunday, and that really does explore more about what we're going to talk about. So, what is the Bristol Whole Life approach? That summarises it, and I'd just like you to take that in and perhaps feed back to me what you think that means. What does that mean to you? Can you see here, ladies? Can you? Any comments on it?
It's about environment as well as the person themselves.
Absolutely. Anybody else notice anything that it might be?
It's not just the cancer.
No, it isn't. It's absolutely, we're not talking just about cancer.
I think the relationships are sometimes neglected.
I think you're probably right, you are. Any more comments on what you think that means, what that depicts?
It's everything, isn't it, that you do with your life.
Absolutely.
Every single thing that you do, not just you,
Yeah.
but everything out there that you do.
We're not just our body, we're lots of other things as well. So we are our mind, our emotions and our spirit, and we interact, and it becomes part of us with the community, our relationships, the environment we live in, and the practical issues that we have to face on a daily basis or weekly basis. So that is what our whole life approach is about, is all of you, the whole part of you, not just that body that the doctors do an amazing job of treating. We're all the bits around the outside as well as. Does that bother anyone? Does that make sense to people? Because it's sometimes a fairly difficult concept, particularly when you've had a cancer diagnosis or you're supporting someone with a cancer diagnosis. The focus is on what the doctors say, what the doctors do, what the nurses say, what they're giving you. And not always, and that's not a criticism of the medical team, but there's not always time to look at what your emotions are, what your mind's doing, what you're thinking. So to sum it up, and I'm going to show you a very nice film in a minute, so you'll see much more of this, much better explained than the way I'm doing it. But to sum up the Bristol Whole Life approach, it's there to help you take control of your own health. We can take some control, and actually again we also recognise that when you've had a diagnosis of any life-threatening condition or any debilitating condition, we can feel that we've lost control. So helping you take control is really important. It's what matters to you. It's what's important to you that comes into this. We all have our own individual, unique wants, needs and thoughts. And this is about giving you a chance to explore those and giving you a chance to express them. It supports a healthier lifestyle, and I perhaps should have said at the beginning, and because we were a bit late, I missed some of my rabbiting on out. We're not going to dictate to you. This is not a prescription. If you need to go away and run a marathon and eat so many portions of vegetables a week and meditate for 2 hours a day, it's not that. It's about leading you towards a healthier lifestyle. And that might mean you make one small change. It might mean that you don't make any changes, that you just realise that what you're doing is the right things, or that you don't want to make changes. But that's what we're hoping to do, is to support you to have a healthier lifestyle. And it's not an alternative approach. It's complementary to what's happening with any other treatment. So this is as well as, not instead of. Does that all make sense? Because there's an awful lot of stuff out there. I've got a friend at the moment that's just been diagnosed, and she's doing the only thing I advised her not to do was Google everything. And she's Googling away and finding all these amazing stories of people that have eaten broccoli for 3 years and, they're now cancer-free. And that's fine, but, it's not that. We're not taking that approach. Okay, now I'm going to do a bit more technology, and I'm going to ask you to be really patient, because this works eventually, if you like. So I'm going to show you a DVD made actually in Bristol by, and it features one of our doctors there who will explain more about this.
Hello, my name is Dr. Catherine Zollman, and I'm the lead doctor at Pennybron UK. I've been a GP in the NHS for more than 20 years, and before that, I trained in medical oncology. Today, I want to share with you some of what I and the team at Pennybron have learned about the things that can really make a difference to people who are living with and beyond cancer. If you've recently finished treatment, you've probably learned the hard way that being diagnosed with cancer can have an enormous impact on all aspects of your life, the physical, psychological, and emotional, and that it can affect close relationships, your work and home life, your communities, and even the very core of what sustains you and gives meaning and purpose to your life. And often, the reality of all of that doesn't hit until after treatment finishes.
It's such a big thing to go through that at the end of it, you do need someone there to help you to get through the emotional side of it, because it affects every aspect of your life. And not just you as an individual, your partner, your children, extended family, everybody's impacted so much by what you're going through.
We want to make sure that you don't feel alone, and that you know where you can go for support, and importantly, that you know about the kinds of things that you can do that will really make a difference to the way you're able to recover, regain your resilience, and stay as well as possible for as long as possible. The things I'm talking about aren't rocket science, but research is now showing that eating a healthy diet, keeping physically active, dealing well with stress and emotions, and being involved in activities which really matter to you and which give your life meaning and purpose can make a huge difference in a number of ways. These important topics are some of the first things we consider with people who come to find out more about our Pennybron whole person approach. Paying attention to these can reduce the side effects of cancer treatments, increase energy levels, improve immune function and overall well-being, and very importantly, lower the chances of your cancer coming back or progressing. And don't assume that if you already have cancer, it's too late to change. One recent study looked at more than 1,000 men who'd already been diagnosed with cancer and found that the men who were more physically active were twice as likely to be alive 20 years later than the men who did little or no exercise. And in 2015, American researchers followed nearly 5,000 people and showed that people who started being more proactive in looking after their own health had better fitness levels and fewer hospital visits 4 years later, even if they hadn't looked after themselves much before. It's never too late to start looking after your health. Well, these are interesting statistics, but why and how do we think these lifestyle measures really make a difference? Well, for that, we have to take a step back and look at what science can tell us about how our bodies usually keep themselves healthy and what goes wrong when we get cancer. It's important to realise that we all make cancer cells all the time in our bodies, and that this is a normal part of being a living, growing human. So our immune systems are designed to recognise and destroy these faulty cells before they're able to settle and grow. Sometimes, for a number of different reasons, our bodies make more cancer cells than our immune systems can cope with. And that is when we may find a tumour or a lump somewhere in our body, or have an abnormal X-ray, scan or blood test, which leads to an actual diagnosis of cancer. Even then, our immune systems will still be actively detecting and destroying cancer cells all the time. Let's have a look at this short video, filmed down a microscope, which shows this system in action. The large round cells indicated by the yellow arrows are cancer cells, and the small, fast-moving cells are the body's immune cells. Notice how they target the cancer cells and kill them from the inside. This is exactly what's going on in your body day in, day out. And this is what we need to support as much as we can. So how exactly can we support our immune systems? Well, again, science can teach us a lot about things that help our immune systems thrive and also about what stops them from working as well as they could. And this gives us something that we can focus on that can make a real difference alongside the treatments that doctors and hospitals provide.
Your immune system is such a wonderful thing that being told that the normal human body produces cancer cells all the time, but you've got these natural killer cells which will go around and kill these things. And that if your immune system is in the right shape, then it will kill cancer and reduce tumours. That coming here was a wonderful thing for me because it gave me hope, and more hope than just taking a drug would do, because I felt there were things that I could do. I could suddenly be more in control.
For example, certain chemicals that our bodies produce, like the chemicals we make when we experience feelings of love or joy, or the chemicals released when we exercise, act to stimulate our immune cells and make them more effective. Certain other chemicals, like the ones we make when we're stressed or very depressed over long periods of time, can suppress our immune systems, making them less effective. Doing any kind of physical activity can really support our immune systems.
By doing more exercise, even when I don't feel like it, say for example I've got a headache and I feel exhausted, fatigued especially, which is quite a common effect of the medication that we have. If I go out and do some walking and do exercise, it eases the feelings of tension, headaches. It clears my head.
Since I've come here, it's made me realise that by using exercise and adjusting my diet, it's just made me, and I still keep swimming and keep on doing all my exercises that I normally do. It's just made me realise that I can live with this cancer, and in fact I've lived with it for over 4 years now, and I'm still kicking.
We also know that the way we eat affects our immune systems and affects how cancer cells grow. Eating plenty of colourful vegetables, fruits, herbs and spices is known to protect against cancer, and there are many chemicals in these foods which have been shown to have powerful actions against cancer cells in laboratory experiments. So it makes sense to include as many of these as we can in our diets where possible.
I've got him cooking, yeah. Well, I go to yoga and you make soup, don't you?
That's right, yeah, that's right.
That's what Penny Bourne's done to us.
Other things we eat, like a lot of concentrated sugars and refined carbohydrates or processed meats, can produce chemicals and hormones which may actually encourage cancer cell growth. So it makes sense to keep these to a minimum where possible. And generally, people find that when they eat like this, they feel better and manage their energy levels and their weight better too.
Not only do I feel I'm benefiting from fighting the cancer because that's boosting my immune system, but I actually lost 1.5 stone as well. So I'm now, for the last 5 or 6 months, I've been keeping absolutely steady at 13 stone, whereas I used to be 14.5 stone, and I feel that's a much better fighting weight. It's probably the exact weight I should be for my height, and so I'm actually feeling healthier because of the change of diet.
Learning how to relax and decrease stress and dealing with our emotions can also be important ways of keeping our immune system strong and our bodies healthy. Coming back to our whole person approach, we can see that what we're trying to do by eating healthily, keeping physically active and fit, dealing effectively with our stress, being emotionally balanced and connecting with things and people we love is to create an environment within our bodies that helps our immune systems to flourish, but where cancer cells will struggle to survive. And the good news is that when we pay some attention to each of these areas and see how they all connect as a whole, then the benefits seem to be even greater.
Even when I get some bad news, I use mindfulness, and it's amazing the effect that has on me so quickly. Whereas it might have taken a few days or even a week for me to get to sort of process the information that I was given. mindfulness is helping me to relax and not let it affect me as much as it would have without the mindfulness. The stress levels are just zero. I mean, it's just amazing how the effect of mindfulness has had on my anxiety and stress.
But it's also important to be realistic. Changing the habits of a lifetime can be difficult and challenging and take a lot of effort, especially when you're recovering from treatment. But even small changes can add together to make a big difference, and it doesn't have to happen all at once. Start by making changes that are manageable for you and your family and friends, and that make you feel better. Remember, any positive change, however small, is better than no change when it comes to supporting the immune system. So in summary, we want you to go away from here knowing that your health and what happens to it is not something that's completely out of your hands and out of your control. There are things that you can do that can really make a difference. By making healthy lifestyle changes in different parts of your life, you may be able to lessen the impact cancer has on your life, reduce some of the side effects of the treatments, increase your energy levels, and increase your chances of living as well as you can for as long as you can.
That is why I think maybe I look so well, because I'm doing it from inside out, if that makes sense. So what I'm putting inside my body, what I am doing to relax my body with my meditation, with my yoga, and really believing that I am doing something to help me stay in remission is a massive, massive thing for me.
So I wish you all the best, and I hope that you're now feeling a little bit more informed, inspired, and able to really start helping yourself to live as well as possible for as long as possible, with and beyond cancer.
Okay, so the film. Any comments about what you've just heard and seen?
Yes, I didn't realise it would produce them and kill them off.
Cancer cells all the time. I think that's probably the fact that most people sort of take on and go, oh, that's something new to me. So actually, celebrate how clever our bodies are, because they've been doing that for a long time. Any other comments?
I like the idea of getting a bit more control.
Good. Yeah, I think really important. Do we agree? Like feeling that you're more in control. This feeling of being on a conveyor belt at times when you're having treatment, and then when you come off the end of that, feeling, well, you know, what am I in control of? Anybody got any comments about the suggestions for healthy lifestyles there?
I think it's very good about the healthy lifestyles, but I think there are people who do all those things and have done all that and they still have the cancer.
Absolutely.
And they still die of the cancers. And there's often a feeling that you've done something wrong, or you're not trying hard enough, or there's a sort of feeling that if only you'd lived this way or you ate the right things, you too would be living a healthy, wonderful life and you wouldn't be ill. And it's not always true.
I think that's a really good point, and a lot of people, I have stood here on previous occasions and had someone say to me, my next door neighbour died of cancer at 35, and the other side, a man who smoked till he was 90 and never went for a walk and ate sausages every day, is still alive. Why is that? And I can remember when I first trained with Penny Bron, which was back in 2014, and asking similar questions. We were encouraged to explore those things. And I remember very, very clearly one of the doctors at Peel saying to me, there is a certain amount of facts behind who gets cancer and who doesn't. And there's three really sort of prongs to that. One is your genetic makeup, and there are some of us that have got, genes that are predisposed. One of it is the environment we live in and the health style we choose. And the third one is just an element of what goes on and look, where you are and when you are. So although we cannot change our genetic makeup, although there is lots of people who take drastic action around that, we can't do much about the look. But if we can do the third thing, which is look at our health style, it just improves our chances of living longer and a better life. And that actually, I think, has stayed with me. So when I do go and eat the thing that I shouldn't eat, I just think, well, okay, you know, let's just hope that luck's on my side with that one and I'll carry on. Because we're not about saying never do this, never do that. Because you wouldn't, would you? I mean, you know, there are, you know, people who take things to the extreme, and there's a lot of talk in the press quite often about people, you know, sort of taking everything out of their lives and making a huge effort. But they still might succumb.
And there are children, for instance, who get cancer
Absolutely.
who've lived a blameless life.
Absolutely, and babies, yes. And I think that fact, you know, it is supported by the fact that we are making cancer cells all the time. We don't know it, you know, our body doesn't go around saying, well, I just got another 10, I just got another few more there, but it is happening to us, and I think it's probably one of the strongest messages. Has anybody else got any comments on the film?
Just on your last point there, it's all about not necessarily just the diet and lifestyle side of it, but you've got to have that relationship with food, so your emotional state is as well.
Absolutely.
So that, yes, as you were saying, like, oh yeah, everybody eats terrible food now and again, even the people that claim to be the healthiest in the world. But as long as we've got that emotional connection, a good emotional connection with food, then you're going to be helping yourself out with that. As I said in the video, like you if you're stressed, and that's what normally happens when we eat bad food, because we do stress about it, you will then reduce the risk of these immune cells that cause cancer.
And I think the stress thing is something really important. I know some people who are, you know, real marathon runners, and that, you know, they're fit as fiddles, as we used to say, and they only eat organic everything, and they 10 portions of vegetables and fruit a day, but they're stressed to the point of breaking. They stress about the training for the marathon, and they stress about getting the right food, and they stress about their job as well. So it's getting those balances of all those things. But, you know, as this lady said here, if we can take back a bit of the control, then hopefully, you know, we'll feel more in control and better for it. So moving on from the film and really looking at what is the impact of cancer. And it's again back to that whole person. And if we sort of start at the body, it may well be that you've got fatigue. I don't know if anybody in the room is suffering with cancer fatigue, this labelled thing.
Keep looking at it, think, please don't close your eyes.
He can close his eyes. I'm going to do a relaxation act later, and I'm asking him to close his eyes. But you know, that's often the unseen side effect of cancer. But sickness, other side effects, pain, can't sleep. If you've had invasive surgery, there can be side effects from that and the effects of that. And that's what can happen around our body. If we go round this, I go round the wheel backwards, apparently someone told me the other day. I go that way, which I don't know why. But actually looking at, in terms of our community, it can isolate us, particularly if you've been on long-term chemotherapy and you think, I don't want to interact with the world in case I catch something because my immune system's being compromised. So you can feel isolated. If you're someone that's been working and you're not working at the moment because of cancer diagnosis, again, you can feel isolated. You can feel isolated just because some people have the approach of, oh, I'm not going to see them in case they mention the word. You know, it's something I don't want to, and I you know, can understand those people, that's their choice, but it can lead to feeling isolated. At the top, in terms of what our mind can do to us, and it can fill us with these thoughts of, I don't believe it, I can't take it in, I can't start thinking about it, I can't think straight, you know, and all that can go in our heads. And remember, our thoughts are not facts, they're just what runs round in our head. Relationships. And I think someone here mentioned, you know, relationships can be impacted in lots of ways. I think I'd be quite a rich lady if I had a couple of pounds for every time somebody said, I didn't realise who my real friends were and who would step forward and help me. And I didn't realise who would back away and wouldn't be there to help me. And that happens often, not always, but it does happen. Children and how they're affected, partners perhaps not understanding or being overprotective. Again, you know, you often find the partner can sort of want to wrap the person in cotton wool, where they want to say, no, actually, I want to go bungee jumping or wing walking or something. The emotions of anger, fear, despair and numbness. And, you know, trying to put in more of that emotion that is good for us of joy can be really hard when you're just full of all that anger and fear. The environment, sitting in hospital waiting rooms, not being able to go on holiday, perhaps not getting out to the green spaces that you used to visit. And that feeling, that spirit of a squashed spirit of, I think I'm going to die, there's nothing I can do, so my spirit is actually reduced. And that doesn't necessarily mean a religious spirit, just you as your spirit. And then the practical things. How am I going to pay for the mortgage if I can't work? Or my body shape has changed completely, and how can I afford a new wardrobe of clothes? All the sorts of practical things. Might not be able to drive for some reason, might not be able to walk as far as you used to. So there's lots and lots. We do have a slide that we use in actually the Living Well course that's got so many impacts on there. It's overpowering in a way, but there are so many things that are impacted with a cancer diagnosis. So what can you do to help yourself? We're not going to do all of those today, you'll be pleased to know. But we do explore a lot of them on our 2-day course. But we leave absolutely there with the body. Conventional medicine is there. And things like relaxation, breathing, physical activity can help us manage some of the symptoms around when our body's affected. Looking at connecting with others and sources of support. What we have today have half a room full of local organisations that are here to support you. And actually seeking out those sources of support, advice, places you might go. I know some people have got cooking courses. There is the people from Cannock, George, when he talks, will talk about going to do some exercise and activity with them. So seeking that out and connecting can be important. Looking at managing stress, perhaps exploring mindfulness, going around to relationships. Being kind to yourself is quite often something that we forget to do, because especially if you've got a partner or family members who are drastically affected by your diagnosis, or you're supporting somebody who's been affected, getting that relationship right can take quite a lot of time and effort. Emotions, learning to express them, accepting a range of emotions, being honest about emotions. I think quite often, we're British, aren't we? So when people ask us how we are, we go, we're fine, I'm fine, it's fine, thank you. We don't often say, do you know what, I'm having a really it's a day. Because people might run away, but actually the good people will listen. And then trying to get some sunshine, calm and safe places, access to nature. If we can get out at this time of the year, when it warms up, apparently it will at the weekend, but there's some fabulous stuff out there. Just looking at the green in the trees, I was walking a couple of days ago and thought, you won't see that bright lemony green again for till next year. So just doing that can help our emotions and our spirit. And perhaps looking for places where we can find stillness, hope, joy, and be creative. You know, if somebody has got a creative streak. So there's lots of things we can do to help. We're going to do some of those, or touch on some of those today. So, summing up, research shows that you can make a real difference by reducing stress. And learning to reduce stress, not easy, but if we can have a go at reducing stress, 5 minutes relaxation or mindfulness or meditation each day actually can reduce your stress levels. You have to be kind to yourself and want to do it. Being active, we know that being active and having an active lifestyle helps. And you may have had a reduced activity because of a diagnosis or treatment, whatever. But just, George will explain all this. He's going to do you some nice gentle, aren't you, George? It is gentle, isn't it, George?
I thought I'd change it for today, actually.
None of that Zumba. Yeah, no, none of that Zumba. No.
Yeah, gentle.
Nice and gentle. Finding emotional and social support. Perhaps, you know, connecting with a friend who may be somebody that hasn't been around that much in the past, but actually understands for whatever reason. And eating well. Those things together and finding small things that you can do in each area, and perhaps it isn't each area, perhaps it's one area, but small changes you can make can literally give yourself some control back and improve your well-being.
Is it just my imagination, or when somebody mentioned physical activity exercise, half the room? Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon. Good morning. Almost afternoon. Yeah, that's very kind of Jane to say that. It is going to be gentle, nothing too vigorous, and you don't have to take part if you don't want to. So it's all pretty straightforward activity and exercise that we're going to do. I may refer to my notes now and again. So Jane mentioned it earlier actually, and it was in the video and the film about it, but keeping things relatively straightforward and simple. Okay, what I do isn't rocket science, okay, and what I'm going to speak to you about for the next 20 minutes. How long have I got, Jane? About 20 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Well, I usually double that. No, I can't.
20 minutes is fine.
I've got 20 minutes. So what I usually talk about and do is what you've probably done in the past anyway. And there's that saying, I'm not going to try and teach me granny to suck eggs, because you know all this. We do, all of us do all this. And we've done it in the past. So we're just going to revisit what we used to do and why we did it really. And I like using the acronym KISS, not because it's a nice word to use, which it is, but has anybody heard that before, what KISS stands for? Yeah. Did everybody hear that? That lady at the back there. Keep it simple and safe, I like to say. So, it has been, so keep it safe and simple. So that's all it is. That's all we're going to do. We're going to keep it safe and simple, and that's all the activity and exercise we need to know, really. So, before I start, is anybody actually doing any exercise and activity at the moment, or what they'd regard as activity and exercise? And just put your hands up if you are. You think you are. So I like to just get a gauge of how many in the room. Yeah, that's about 3, 4, 5. So yeah, when we look at the national picture, that's pretty much what it is. There's not enough of us are doing the recommended amount of exercise at all. So you are not unusual, guys, and there's multiple reasons why we're not doing that. So we'll have a look at those as well in the next 10-15 minutes and how we can improve on that. So would you all agree with me and what the nice doctor was saying on the video about activity and exercise is generally a good idea? Would we agree with that? Yeah? It's pretty good, it's worth doing. Okay, so when we talk about exercise, what does that mean to you? Just shout out a few things what exercise means to you, do you think? Moving? Does it mean getting your heart rate up, walking? Fresh air? Oh, God, yeah, fresh air. Lovely. Anything else? Would you regard exercise as gardening, perhaps? Yeah. It is, yeah, a bit of gardening. I'm getting lots of answers now. Sorry, Caroline. Hoovering the stairs, vacuuming the stairs. Is that really, is housework exercise? Yes. I usually get shot down when I say it in that patronising way. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, there's lots of stuff we do every day that is exercise and activity. So we're probably all doing it anyway. All we've got to remember, all we've got to do is that recommended amount of daily exercise. So there's a general guideline of how many minutes a day that the whole population, so whether you are living with cancer, going through the treatment or not, or just anybody. Has anybody got an idea how many minutes a day we should be doing? 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 20 minutes, thereabouts. Yeah, I mean, the general guideline, this came out a few years ago from the chief medical officers when they looked at it and they analysed a group of people that were doing it. They suggested for health benefits, 30 minutes of exercise on most days of the week is what we should be aiming to do. Okay, and they also included one more category in there. What do you think it is? Heart rate. Heart rates, yeah. They use the word moderate. So 30 minutes of moderate exercise on most days of the week. So if we could do a bit of gardening, somebody across here mentioned walking. Dancing, I like that one, dancing. Anything really that's going to get your heart rate up. Somebody mentioned heart rate, getting that heart rate up so it's moderate. So what do they mean by moderate? So just as an example, is this moderate? So I'm walking through the beautiful Cannock Chase at this pace on a Sunday morning, just a little natter. Is that moderate? No.
It would be for me.
I'll come back to that. Is this moderate, do you think?
Yeah.
Talking to somebody, you're holding a conversation, you can carry on talking. I'm doing the cameraman's head in. But I'm getting my heart rate up. So we need to raise that heart rate above its normal limit for those 30 minutes. So that is what they mean by moderate. So yeah, you've got light intensity, moderate intensity. And then if I was to go like this, do a bit of a power walk, that moves into the high intensity. So the recommendations when they revisited it, they says you can do 30 minutes of moderate intensity on most days of the week by housework, gardening, playing with the kids, playing with the grandkids, washing the car, going for a swim, anything, using the stairs instead of a lift, anything that's going to get your heart rate up for 30 minutes. But they also included what we should be doing as well is some work to increase our strength. Okay, so a couple of days a week if you can. I'm going to use my props because you'll be wondering why I bought a tin of Green Giant with me and Aldi peas. Is we should be doing strength exercises as well a couple of days a week. So you can incorporate stuff that you've got in your house, like these simple items. And by doing those a couple of days a week, we're going to maintain our strength because we're all going to lose muscle as we get older. And if you've gone through treatment, the muscle strength loses and also the joints become more fixed and rigid and stiff. So if we were to do this, do some bicep curls, which you've all done in the past, or you should do some shoulder presses, and you can do it without the weights. You can do it without the weights. Should we do it? Should we do it? Yeah, let's get people moving. Love it when people go in. So that's it. Yeah. So let's just start together, ladies. You're getting carried away. You're getting carried away. So what we do, before we do any exercise, we just warm up a little bit, don't we? This is going back to what we know. Warm up gently. So we do some mobilisation exercises. So good idea, start at the top and work your way down. So you're sitting there and you're maintaining good posture. You're sitting upright. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. This middle area, your core muscles, you make them a little bit more tense while you're sitting there, so you've got good core stability, so that helps the rest of the body. Shoulders back and relaxed, yeah. And then we're just going to start at the top, so just want you to turn your head gently to one side, just slowly, and then back to the middle, and then to the other side, and then back again, and then back to the centre. Then we'll move down to the shoulders, so you can just do some shoulder shrugs, and moving round. That's it. This all feels good anyway, even if you don't do it afterwards. Yeah. And then go backwards. That helps, yeah. Okay, and I'm aware that you're sitting pretty close to each other and people in front, so just be aware of the next, some of these moves anyway. So we're just going to do that core again. I'm going to move down to the waist. And you can put your hands on your waist if you want, or you can put them out, and you're just going to turn around in the seat. That's it, just gently. And if it feels painful, guys, don't do it. Yeah, but just that range of motion. These can be done seated, or they can be done standing as well. If you're going to stand, it just increases the intensity a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to stand now, guys, because I want you to do the next exercise. So you don't have to if you don't want. If you've got dodgy knees or hips or back, don't do this. But we're going to move down, and we just want to the hips and the knees really. So we're going to do what if you go to the gym, what they say a squat. Okay, and you're going to do that inside the gym. If you need support, hold on to a chair. So you can do this assisted by using the chair for support, either behind or by the side. So we're just going to bend our knees gently and then back up. And it doesn't really matter how far that you bend these knees, really. Okay? The more range of motion, the better, but you can build it up over time. Yeah? Okay, and we're counting as we do these as well. So we're going to aim for about 10 at a time. Okay? And a couple more. Okay, nice one. Brilliant. Now have a sit back down for me. So that was the squat exercise, and it was gentle. So in this warm-up process, just gentle exercise. Okay, while you're sitting there, and I'm going to sit down as well, as you can see at the back. So just extend one of yeah, don't kick the person in front. If you've got space, you're just going to extend the knee, that's it, and back. Okay, that's it. And if you can, just put your hand on your thigh. Can you feel the muscles working in your thigh there? Those muscles on top, yeah, brilliant. So this is good feedback that you can do this. Right, okay, and then you obviously swap legs. So while you're exercising, guys, if you can do, it helps if you do one side of the body, do the other as well. Okay. And then we're down to our ankles, so feet on the floor. And then what you can do is just some gentle ankle circles. Yeah? So you go clockwise and then anti-clockwise. And then you can point with your toes. And you feel the calf muscle tightening up a little bit, and then you can pull your toes towards your knee the other way. Yeah, and that'll be working the front of the leg and back down. So you can do that a number of times, and then you can change legs. Do the same again, ankle circles, and this feels good. So if you're going out for a walk, guys, like some of you said, do these before you go. Just get the joints working, get there's fluid in the joints and needs warming up a little bit before you exercise, so do that, and that'll help. And then the opposite way. And I'm better sometimes going one way than the other, or using one leg better than the other. And then again, pointing and back. Okay. So, that's it. Let's just march on the spot. We're actually in time there, aren't we? That's good. Simple stuff, isn't it? Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, one more. That's it, and stop. Now the next exercise, this is a really important one, guys. This is the one we need as we get older, and the one that if we don't do, is going to have a real detrimental effect on all of us, really. And that is training these big leg muscles to help you get out of the seat, yeah? Because we need to do that all the time, and as we get older, these muscles deteriorate. So all it is standing, okay? Can we do that? Just stand. And if you need support, because sometimes you've got the arms on the chair, you need to support, that's okay. And then you sit back down, gentle, and you maintain that posture. So what we would do is possibly 10 of these. So you just get up and then you sit back down, but you don't let your bottom touch the seat. You just get back up. So back down, and then just before you touch your seat, and back up. Okay. And then just a couple more. One more. Yeah, your knees can tell this. And then one more, and back up. Brilliant. And have a sit back down. Yeah. You can... How did that feel? You can tell you've done it. Yeah, and it's just a couple of minutes, isn't it? I think the message that they're trying to get out is we just need to move more. It is simple stuff. A lot of the things we do today, you know, we've got mobile phones, we've got TV remote controls. I'm getting on a little bit, right? Does anybody remember when you didn't have a remote control for the TV? Yeah. And you had to get off the seat. It was like this, wasn't it? Oh, watching the 6 o'clock news on the BBC. All right, Coronation Street's coming on. I have to get up. Click, back down. And this little bit of activity, back down, is movement. Okay, it's what we don't do anymore. We don't need to do it. We've got mobile phones, we've got remote controls, we've got automatic. I sound like about 90. We've got washing machines. We've got microwaves. We've got loads of labour-saving devices which make life easy. But sometimes it's too easy. Years ago, your mums, your grannies, usually the ladies of the house, when they did washing, they have to do the washing, they take this heavy washing out of the washer, put it in a basket, do a deadlift, what they call in the gym a deadlift, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 kilos of weight, wet washing, take it outside, and then do shoulder presses, what they call in the gym, then the washing out, clip it on, next one, and you do all of that. You don't have to do that now. You've got a tumble dryer. You just throw it in the tumble dryer. So less and less, we're doing less and less, but we need to do more and more. So the idea is we just need to move more, basically. And that is by doing simple things like if you go shopping, you can leave your car at the far end of the car park and walk that little bit further. If you go in shopping centres and there's a set of stairs, there's a lift, and there's an escalator, which one will we choose? The stairs. If you use public transport and you're thinking, right, there's a bus stops every 200 metres, you can get off the bus stop a little bit earlier and do that last bit of walking. Any other ones that we've missed? Any other ideas? What else we can do? Yeah?
Walk in a circle around the block.
Walk in a circle around the block.
That way you know how far you've got to go to get back home.
Yes, yeah, it's a good point that is, actually. So we know how much we need to do. And there's a lot of fear of people going in a leisure centre, for instance, because they're thinking, I know I need to do something, but I'm not sure if I should do it or not, whether it's going to hurt, whether it's going to damage me, whether it's going to set me back, okay? And we wanted to keep things simple. So go and speak to somebody, maybe go to the leisure, come and speak to us. We're in Cannock and Rugeley at the leisure centres there. The advice is free. We work with hundreds of people each year on different health issues. We can help get you started. Go and speak to somebody, get in there and get that support. It's always easier if you do things with somebody. It helps motivate you as well. This lady mentioned dancing. So dancing's a great one. Join a dance club. You know, Strictly Come Dancing, that's a brilliant show. Do something like that. Go out, have a laugh. Make it fun as well. If you make it fun, you tend to stick with it. Do something you like. We've got a range of programs that we've reintroduced over the last year or two that are getting older people back into exercise, like walking football, walking netball, back to netball, back to basics, stuff that people can go back to when they played them when they were kids, played them when they were younger. We've got ladies coming in now playing netball again. They haven't played it for years and they're having a laugh. And that's all it's about, just moving a little bit more. Yeah, join a local club, stay safe as well. if you are concerned, you can always speak to your nurse or your GP beforehand, before you do any exercise. But build those 30 minutes up gradually. So if 30 minutes does sound a lot, and we only did a few minutes of exercise there, you might want to start at 5 minutes. Okay, as long as you get your heart rate up a little bit. And then you might want to go to 10 minutes, and then 15 and 20 and 30. But what they realised when they did that study originally was you didn't have to do 30 minutes all in one go. So you could do 10 minutes in the morning. We just did a few minutes there. You just add a few more minutes to that, and that would be your 10 minutes. Then you may wash the car in the afternoon, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then in the evening, you might think, oh, it's a beautiful summer's evening, I'm going for a walk. And I'm going to make it moderate, so I'm going to get out of breath, get a little bit warm. That would be your further 10 minutes. That would be your 30 minutes for that day. So you could just incorporate those 30 minutes and make it simple. Moderate, one lady said, yeah, this is moderate for you. Yes. And that is true, because everybody's got a different level where they're going to start, that baseline where they're going to start. So you choose what's moderate for you. Over time, that'll become easier, and you'll have to either extend the walk or go faster. Okay, you'll have to change something to make it moderate. You need to be getting out of breath slightly. Okay, Macmillan produced lots of information on their websites, and I've got some of their booklets there. But this is a really handy record, really. It's a 12-week program. Okay, so you can see, I don't know if you can see it from there, but you've got week 1 to week 4 on the front, then week 5 to week 12 on the back. And the idea is you just take week 1, it might be a Monday morning, and you just put in going for a walk. I've done a 30-minute walk, and if you can remember, just put a smiley face next to it if you enjoyed it. Okay? Then Tuesday, you may have did some gardening. Half an hour in the garden that day. Enjoyed it, smiley face. Wednesday, you may have gone for a swim, but you didn't enjoy it, so you put a frown. Thursday, did some walking. Friday, did some more gardening. Whatever it is, played badminton or anything. Do that for the whole month. At the end of the month, just count how many times that you've exercised that month for a period of 30 minutes. And it may have been out of, what we now? May? 30 days in May? 31 days in May? To count. So it might start on the 1st of May, and by the end of May, at the 31 days, you may have exercised for 18 of those. And out of those 18 days, there might have been 14 smiley faces. So look at the smiley faces. And then in June, 30 days? 30 days in June, you're thinking, right, I'm going to do more than 18 on the next page. I want to do at least 20 in June. So that'll be your target. You're setting some goals. I want to do 20 in June, and I want to do more smiley faces. So I'm going to look at what I enjoyed doing last month, and I'm going to increase those. So you do that again. And this is a great record. Put this up. There's magnets in there as well that you can put it up on your fridge at home, in your garage, somewhere where you're going to see it. Just keep adding those in, and then you've got a record. And it does motivate you to continue. Okay. And then at the end of 12 weeks, see how you feel. See if it's made a difference to your physical, your fitness levels, and how you feel generally. Okay.
Did you see that scared look, David? Because he knows he's had his 20 minutes.
It goes so quick when you're enjoying yourself, doesn't it? Yeah, simple stuff. Pedometers. This is, I've got a few of these if anybody wants one. These are just little devices. They've been around for a while. You clip them on your belt, and they record the amount of steps that you take a day. And the aim is to get up to so many steps. Does anybody know what the guide was? 10,000 steps a day, which is around about 5 miles. It's about, I think roughly they say it's about what a postman does on his delivery. So they're aiming to do 10,000 steps a day. That may be too much to start with. But what you could do is put this on the first day of the month, record it on your diary as well. And you might be doing 1,000, that first day. By the end of the month, you might be up to 4,000. Record it and put it in. So simple. Am I okay for Jane for another second? Resistance bands. So the pedometers, you can buy them as well. They start at about £2 from places like Argos, or there is other places to buy them from. And they go up, you can get them on your watches, you get them on your smartphones as well. These are resistance bands, a couple of quid again. And you can use these and peel them apart. For those exercises, like I showed you with the cans. So if you wanted to do a shoulder press, you do a shoulder press, yeah. If you wanted to work your chest muscles, yeah, and your back, you can do this. Various different exercises, yeah. If you wanted to do the exercise we did seated, where we were just extending the leg and bring it back down, you can increase the resistance on that by using this. And usually the darker colour bands they are, the thicker the latex is, so it makes it a bit harder. So start with a lighter colour band, and then you can do a leg extension. You could pay a gym membership for this and go on the fancy machines in the gyms and do it there, or you could buy a band for £2. Okay, I shouldn't really say that because I work in leisure centres, but yeah, that is the truth. So leg extensions and various other activities as well. So a couple of quid. I've nearly finished. Any questions before I go? If you think of any, I'm going to be here the rest of the day. Just come and speak to us. Jane's going to go through a few slides, I think, and that'll be it.
Well done,
fantastic.
George. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
I think we all enjoyed that one, George. We always enjoy George. I will just quickly go to the slides that are here. Just really why be active, and I think you know most of them. That there's lots and lots of benefits to being active, and these are just some of them. The guidelines George has already touched on, about the 30 minutes a day, and you can split that into 10-minute sections. And there is evidence that less than 10 minutes doesn't do you as much good. So if you can do 10 minutes at a time, that's great. The moderate intensity, and there's lots of ways that exercise, I mean, this is going to sort of sound, playing with children will give you exercise. You know, if you've got grandkids or children and you think, oh, I've got to play with the kids, I can't get me walking. Well, actually, there's a lot of effort goes into playing with kids. And just really where to start. So you can, in quite a lot of places, get an exercise prescription if you are, certainly if you're recovering from cancer or if you've had heart problems. So ask your doctor if that's available in your area. Ask someone to be your exercise buddy. Sometimes the idea of walking for 20 minutes or half an hour is a bit daunting. But if somebody else wants to do that, ask them to come with you. And you can still walk at quite a moderate pace and have a bit of a chat. Look at the local park. There's lots of healthy walking programs about. Plan some days out where you're going to walk around a National Trust property, because you will certainly get your 10,000 steps doing that. Make a plan, George has talked about. It's really, really important that you're kind to yourself. Activity is better than no activity, but actually make sure that it is okay for you. And if you're worried, talk to your GP or talk to one of these professionals. So that's our sort of overview for being active.
Good morning. I'm Alison. I'm one of the dietitians from County Hospital, part of the bigger team that are across UHNM. And I'm here this morning to talk to you all about eating well. And I use the phrase eating well as opposed to healthy eating. Eating well is a diet which promotes your own individual health, and there is not one blanket diet for everybody. Unfortunately, we may have coexisting health issues going on. We may have diabetes going on. We may have renal issues, bowel issues going on. And therefore, there isn't one blanket advice that I can give you. What we do have are some general guidelines as to why we should be eating well. So what are the good reasons that we should be eating well? First of all, eating well helps us to recover from our treatment. Our treatment, it might have been a prolonged period of time, and that eating well might be a process that takes some time for us to get into the rhythm of, but can help us to recover from our treatment and our cancers a little bit faster. Eating well helps to boost our energy. We know that people that haven't been eating well or have gone through a period of malnutrition also affects them psychologically as well. So eating well helps to boost not only our spirits and on the way that we're thinking, but the level of energy that we have. Eating well means helping to maintain a healthy weight for you. And for some people, that might actually mean needing to gain a little bit of weight. It could be that throughout your treatment that your weight has dropped below what is the recommended amount. And therefore achieving a healthy weight for you does not necessarily mean losing weight. It may be that we need to gain a little bit. But when we're looking at a healthy weight for you, we're looking at a weight within the normal healthy weight range, which for those of you that know BMI is between a BMI of 20 to 25. And if you need me to go through a little bit later and speak individually to you about what is a healthy weight for you, I can do that. Eating well can help us to deal with some of the side effects maybe from our treatment. It can help us to move forward and get over those side effects. And also eating well can help to promote or improve our immune system. So what is eating well? Well, you'll know yourselves that there'll be a plethora of information about what is eating well or what could be described as healthy eating. You'll find things in the media, you'll find things in magazines, you'll find innumerable advice from everybody, from family, from friends, from Auntie Sybil, from everywhere. Everybody will have their own advice on what you should or should not be eating. What we need to do is look at the advice that has got an evidence base. So what are the things that we know that are grounded in real evidence? And the World Cancer Research Fund has laid out for us some guidelines for those people that are living with or recovering from cancer as to what we should be aiming for. The top one is be a healthy weight. We know that certain cancers are linked to being overweight or obese, and there's been quite a lot in the media recently about trying to make sure that if you are overweight or obese, that we achieve a healthy body weight. And that must be done slowly and with time. There's a big difference between starving and between cutting out excess calories that you don't need. So achieving that healthy weight takes time, and that's fine. Move more, we've just had the talk from previously about moving more and being a bit more active. Eating more grains, fruit and vegetable, and again this is very individual. There may be individuals that are advised not to have too much fibre for certain bowel conditions that they have, and in which case you take this steadily and a step at a time. But when we're looking at eating more fruits and vegetables, there's no pressure on them to be fresh. They could be tinned, dried, frozen. All of these things will still provide us with the nutrients that we need. And we have to be practical. You've got to look at the guidelines within the limits of the money that you have available, within the time that you have available. Avoiding highly energy processed foods. Again, this is one that has to be taken into context with where you are within your treatment, how much time you have. If you're coming home and you're exhausted and the choice is between something that's already been prepared, which you could improve by perhaps adding some frozen vegetables to, then that's absolutely fine, and it's much better to do that rather than not be eating. It could be that when you have that time and a bit more energy that you could produce an extra portion that could go in the freezer. It could be that perhaps family and friends could help and make meals sometimes for you if that's possible. But generally what we say about highly energy processed foods is the amount of fat and sugar that are in those foods have been determined by somebody else. And to keep the cost of those foods down, generally there's quite a lot of high sugar and fat in there because they're cheap ingredients. So that tends to be the issue with these foods. Limit the consumption of red and processed meats. When we're thinking about red and processed meats, we tend to think about beef. We tend to say, well, hang on a minute, I only eat beef a couple of times a week. What we tend to do is forget about the other red meats, which are the pork and the lamb. And the one that we tend to forget about the most is ham and bacon, which we may be having only red meat a couple of times in the evening, but we could be having ham 2-3 times in our sandwiches. We could be having a cooked breakfast as well at the weekend. So think about red meat within the whole plethora of that. Are there other alternatives you could be putting in your sandwiches? Could you perhaps have turkey mince a couple of times? Could we cut down the amount of meat that we're using and put a few more pulses in the dish? And then those are simple sort of strategies that we could do to reduce a tiny bit the red meat. Could we have a bit more fish? The general guidelines of eating fish twice a week, at least one of those being oily fish if we can. Could we have a fish pie instead of a meat pie? Could it be a fish pie instead of a shepherd's pie? Those kind of things, simple things of making those swaps. Limit the consumption of sugar sweetened drinks. This has been on the news this morning. The BBC has run this morning. The thing about sugar is that sugar doesn't provide us with anything other than calories. It's one of those very few nutrients in our diet or foods in the diet that actually has no nutritional value other than calories. So cutting it out of our diet doesn't particularly risk any other form of lack of nutrient loss. So when we're looking at sugary drinks, there's something that are very calorific. The issue with sugary drinks is that those people that drink sugary drinks also tend to have other lifestyle factors going on. So they tend also to be the people who perhaps have a slightly higher body weight and perhaps doing other unhealthy things. So it's quite a confusing, it's very difficult to take that message out on its own. But could we cut down the sugar in our tea and coffee? Could you, if you're out, perhaps not have the caramel syrup on the top of the latte? Could we go for the no added sugar fizzy drinks if we could? And the other thing is with fruit juice, could we even dilute the fruit juice down a little bit? We tended to, as a nation, move towards smoothies and think that fruit juice is one of those things that we can eat lots and lots of because it's healthy. It is quite high in sugar, it's still quite high in calories. So maybe we could dilute the fruit juice down with a little bit of water, put some sparkling water in it. And then limit alcohol. In the great days of equality, we used to say 21 units for a gentleman and 14 units for a lady. Does anybody know what the recommendation is now? 14 for everybody, yes. So the equality, the gentleman's allowance has gone down. So we're now 14 units for everybody. Does anybody know the amount of units in a bottle of wine? A bottle of wine is about 10 units if it's a standard strength. A pint is about between 2 and 3 units, depending on the strength of the beer. And a shot or a single measure is 1 unit, but that's a single measure in a pub rather than a home single measure of gin, which perhaps tends to be slightly larger. So when we're looking at 14 units through the week, just bearing that in mind. I know for certain treatments, the doctors will advise you not to have any alcohol at all. Other ones, if they said that it's okay, then perhaps looking at moderating that intake or having at least a couple of days a week where you try and stay alcohol-free. So those are our general guidelines from the World Cancer Research Fund. How does that translate into what we do practically every day? We have an Eat Well guide. The Eat Well guide is not intended to be just on everybody's plate at every meal. It's intended to be, what am I aiming for in my daily life? What am I aiming for through the week? What percentage of the different nutrients am I aiming for? And we start with the first one, which is your starches, because these have a lot of bad press. Everybody's trying to avoid carbs. Everybody's trying to cut the carbs down. They have a lot of bad press. The reality is that when we're looking at the calories, often it's the things that we put on the carbs that give us the calories rather than the carbs themselves. So when we're looking at the group of starches, we're talking about your bread, your potatoes, your rice, your pasta. If we're having a slice of toast for breakfast, it's not the toast often, it's the stuff we put on the toast, which adds to the calories, so the butter and the marmalade and the everything else. Likewise with the sandwich, it's the stuff that's in the sandwich often that is the thing that's actually contributing to the calories. The other thing we tend to do with carbs is we tend to carb overload a little bit. So for example, we may have lasagna, and then we may have some chips with the lasagna, and then we may have a slice of garlic bread. Yeah? So that then the starches on the plate start to extend well beyond a third of the plate. We may have a curry, but we may have rice with the curry, we may have a naan bread, and we may have had some papadums as well. So again, the carbs tend to go much above a third of the meal. And that's because we tend to, these things get added in, and therefore they don't count because they're the extras, if you know what I mean. So we're looking at keeping our starches to about a third, generally, of our intake in the day, or a third of our meal. If we can do that on our plate, if we're having a plate which is a plate of spaghetti with some mince on the top, then obviously that's more than a third. So bearing that in mind when we're dishing up, looking for about a third of your plate to be the carbs. Why do we need them? We need them because they've got lots of vitamins in them, and they also give us a valuable source of fibre if we're allowed fibre in our diet. Your next group are your fruits and vegetables. We're aiming for at least 5 portions a day, and a portion is generally a handful. So if it's an apple, it's 1 apple. If it's strawberries, it's a handful of strawberries, handful of grapes, that kind of thing. And we're looking for 5 portions a day. And that doesn't just mean in the evening. So when we're looking at lunchtime, could we improve the balance of our lunch? Could we have some stuff with us? Could we have some fruit with us? Could we have vegetable sticks if we're eating out and we're eating at work? Could we put salad in the sandwiches? Could we have extra fruits as snacks? And again, I don't mind if the fruits are frozen or fresh. If you look at certain foods that have been hanging around fresh for a few days, things that are frozen at source in some ways have a lot more vitamins. And there's a general misguidance as well that everything needs to be raw, which isn't the case. We get more vitamin A from cooked carrots than we do from raw carrots. So there's no need for things to be raw. There's no need for things to be only from a certain shop that only does the fresh organic ones. Any fruits and vegetables that we can get in, let's get them in. But let's aim for at least 5 portions a day. If we're not, then the amount of the others goes up. If you haven't got a third of vegetables on your plate, everything else goes up. And that's where the calories and the weight problems tend to come from. The next group I've got on there is the milk and the dairy produce. We're aiming for, generally, about a pint of milk a day. That pint of milk doesn't have to be all as milk. We can substitute 1/3 of a pint of milk for a yoghurt. We can substitute 1/3 of a pint of milk for an ounce of cheese, but generally about a pint a day. So 3 good portions of dairy a day. And we need those for the calcium. They're also a valuable source of protein. If we're trying to watch our weight, then going towards the lower fat ones. If we're trying to gain weight, then going towards the fuller fat ones. In fact, if we're trying to gain a lot of weight, extra fat ones, perhaps with a splash of cream, but no. So full fat if we're trying to gain and reduced fat if we're trying to lose, but aiming for 3 a day. People that are on certain hormone treatments will be asked to increase their calcium even higher because they'll be losing calcium from the bones, and in which case you may be put on calcium supplements, or you may be asked to put an extra couple of portions in. Takes us to the other group. There's a really tiny group, the oils one, oils and spreads. I lived in Greece for 12 years. Greek people are adamant that olive oil has no calories at all, that it's actually calorie free and you can use it as much as you like. Generally we aim for unsaturated fats if we can, so aiming for the olive oil, the rapeseed oil, the sunflower oil if you can, if you like them. All butters, all margarines, all of them tend to have roughly the same amount of calories. So if we're trying to watch our weight, then trying to go for the lower fat ones, trying to use oil sparingly. Don't fry in olive oil if you can, because it loses its unsaturated properties, so that's good. That's not an ideal thing, but we tend to say if we're trying to lose weight, watch the amount of oil we're having, and obviously the opposite. If you're trying to gain weight, you will have spoke to a dietitian who said to you, add to everything, please. And then the very last group, we've got on there, I've got to miss the protein group out. Protein groups are important. Protein, health and repair of tissues, needed for metabolism of energy and also for enzymes and things in our body. When we're looking at protein, we're looking at meat, fish, eggs, cheese, and then meat, fish, pulses, and nuts as well. And again, looking at how can we perhaps reduce the amount of meat that we're having and increase the amount of the alternatives, and aiming for at least 2 good portions a day. And so there's a group on the outside of the plate. Can anybody see them? They've put them out here. They're not allowed on the plate, they've been pushed out there, which is a bit mean really. And those are the extra things, the snacks, the high energy, high fat things. And again, when we're looking to gain weight, then we would have said to you, then try and graze a little bit more between your meals. But it's about choosing things that snacks that have got perhaps a bit more nutrient density. It could be bananas and custard, it could be cheese and crackers. The higher fat snacks are those that add essentially extra calories into our diet. If we're trying to watch our weight, we can cut down a little bit. That's our Eat Well guide then. That's roughly what we're aiming for. How do we achieve that? Doesn't need to achieve tomorrow. It can be achieved with very small steps, very gradually. Again, setting smart targets. So let's say, okay, well my targets are going to be that I'm going to cut down the sugar in my tea. I am going to try and take an extra piece of fruit with me to work, or if I'm out and about. I'm going to try and keep my starch to 1/3 on my plate. Those may be your 3 targets. That might be where you're aiming for and starting with it, and that's great. Make small changes. Make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids. Often we confuse hunger and thirst together. We get that sensation that we want something. Perhaps try and drink a little bit first and see if it's that. Trying to limit caffeine drinks to maybe 3 or 4 a day, and on top of that thinking about decaffeinated ones or herbal teas. But making sure that I'm drinking plenty of fluids. And very finally, eating is not just about nutrition. And I know standing here as a dietitian, that's probably the thing that comes across, but eating is so much more than nutrition. And I think often when we've had a period of illness, our partners or our families have struggled with the fact that meals haven't been quite the same, that we maybe not had as good an appetite, or we've not been eating quite as much. Eating is such a social and important part of our lives. So making sure that those meal times, if you can, take your time and enjoy what you're eating. Don't feel guilty about what you're eating. I think there's sometimes, when the association with food and cancer, I think people can suddenly start to feel guilty about what they've eaten or what they've eaten in the past. I think it's really important to remember that healthy eating is a very important part of our lives, but it's not something that needs to overtake our lives from a point of view of anxiety. And if you are at all worried, then please ask your nurse to either discuss it through with you or ask them to refer you through to the dietitian, and we'll by all means help to ease any queries or problems that you may have. And there are locally run services that can help with cookery classes, and also with watching and weight management, which I'll leave on there for anybody who wants to have a look at them. And I think that's me finished. Thank you very much. I will hang around so that if you have any queries, I'll be around at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to do emotional support. 1 or 2 people have mentioned to me when we've been talking to them that they think that the emotional side of things is the most difficult. What sort of things would people say they have problems with in terms of emotions?
Just the swing from emotions. You can have 5 or 6 emotions in one day.
Absolutely. And these things that are here, you could feel all of those, couldn't you? Loneliness, confusion, anxiety, fear, grief, anger. What is the emotion? Does anybody know? I know the list of emotions. There's one that's not there, that's missing off that list. That's joy. And joy is an emotion. And if we can get more of a joy in our life, then if you remember from Catherine's explanation of what turns the killer cells on and off, stress turns it off and bad emotions turn it off. The joy will turn it back on. And it affects our relationships, as we know.
It's often hard, isn't it, to admit that you need that sort of support.
Yeah, well, we're stoic, aren't we?
I think it's very difficult to admit that you're scared or whatever it is.
And perhaps we're frightened of what if we tell somebody what they might say back. I don't know, in terms of saying, I find this, I'm angry about it, or I feel a sense of grief, and people perhaps not understanding. So yeah, and so expressing those emotions can be hard. So any other people feel it's difficult to actually express them?
I think sometimes it's difficult to know actually what you're actually feeling as well.
Yeah.
To get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Why,
Why's the anxiety come up?
Or is that anxiety, or is it anger? What is it? Yeah.
Okay. And I think we certainly recognise that, and we know there are ways that we can help that.
Protect the people around you.
Yeah, there is this instinct. Don't tell other people.
Scared.
Yeah. Scared.
Yeah, scared and the fear of it. Yeah. I don't get angry.
Okay.
I'm more scared or fearful of what.
Panic.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you find it difficult to talk to other people about that because they might not understand?
No.
Okay. And that's why we suggest when we do a 2-day Living Well course that everybody in the room is in the same boat, and those sort of things come up. And I was talking to someone earlier about the course that we do. It's not unusual for us to all have a bit of a cry.
No.
We usually have a bit of a laugh as well. We might have a bit of a stompy foot anger bit, but it's that freedom to get that out. These are guidelines that Penny Bron use about the fact that it's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to tell the truth about how you feel. I think it's also okay to say, I don't want to talk about how I feel, but perhaps finding the help with the right person. I think there's this thought that, it's got there without blaming or burdening someone else. We think we're going to burden someone else. But often people very close to us ask us how we feel because they actually want to know what they can do about it. It's not, it's not that they're prying. They want to understand. One of the things that I learned on a course a while ago was a guy who had got a long-term condition that often meant he was in isolation, having treatment. And he said, my sister always comes to see me, she drives me mad. And I went, okay, why does she drive me mad? Well, she always wants to know how I feel. He said, I don't want to tell her. And he came back and said, after some suggestions we made, that he had an agreement with her that he would score how he felt from 0 to 10. Where 10 was he felt fantastic and 0 was he felt absolutely dreadful. And that had, by saying to her, I'm on a 6, I'm on a 4-day, I'm on an 8-day, had actually reduced this burden of having to explain to how he felt. He'd found a method to do that.
I do that with my daughter. She's only young and doesn't understand a lot, but she'd say, how was your day, Mummy? And if I tell her it was an 8-day, she goes, oh, that's good.
There you go.
Or if it was a 2-day, she knows why I might not be quite as patient or whatever, but
Yeah, no, that's lovely.
It's important. 0 to 10 works for us.
And works with children as well, as you say. So that's great. So it's okay to express ourselves. It's okay to get help, and you can get better at learning about feeling. It's about trying to understand. Like you said, you don't always understand the feelings. We can do a little bit about that. Okay, where to start getting support? Counsellors, perhaps take time for yourself. Support groups. We didn't get any support groups here today, but there are a lot of support groups. Call a helpline, phone a friend. Do something creative, even if it's throwing paint at a wall. A lot of people make a lot of money out of that. And be kind to yourself. It's really about realising that it's okay to feel how you feel, and asking for help is not such a bad thing. So what I'm going to do now, if everybody's willing, and you don't have to, I'm going to do a quick relaxation, which is a way of managing our stress levels a bit. It's only going to take me 5 minutes. I'm going to talk you through it, so you don't have to do this. I will go quiet, not for too long, in the middle. I haven't left the room. I am still here. So what I want you to do is put everything down that you're holding. Sit in a comfortable way in the chair so that the seat's supporting you and the back is supporting you. And just rest your hands on your thighs. And when we do these sort of things, we tend to find it helps if we do what we call 2 changing breaths. And it's a way of signalling to ourselves that we're going to go into a slightly different mood, a different phase. And that is, we breathe in through our nose and then gasp it out through our mouth. So it is literally so if you can just try 2 breaths like that, you'll find your shoulders will drop a bit. So 2 breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, if you can close your eyes, this will help. But if not, if you just take a soft focus on the floor and just let the chair support you. And I want you to start by focusing on your right foot. Just in your head, think about your right foot. If you can, wiggle your toes in your shoe, or do so. And let anything that's stressing you fall through your foot. Any tension you have, through your heel, through your ankle, and just let the floor support that foot. Now I want you to go and focus on your left foot. Wiggle your toes. If there's any tension, let it fall away, and let the floor now support both of your feet. Now scan up from the heel of your foot, through your ankle, up through your shin and your calves, and let the floor just support that lower part of your leg. Let any tension flow down to the floor. Now continue your scan up through your knees, up to your thighs. Let your thighs just rest into the chair. Let the chair do the work. Hold you there and take any tension away and down through your lower leg back to the floor. From your thighs, come up to your hips, through your buttocks,
Your lower back. Back of the chair can support you. You can let yourself just fall into the chair. It'll do the work. And let any tension just drift away. From your lower back, up through your spine, your shoulders. Let your shoulders fall. And any tension go down through your upper arm, your elbow, your lower arm, into your hands. Stretch your fingers and let any tension that's there in that upper part of your body just flow away. Now come back to your shoulders, up through your neck, back of your head, across the top of your scalp, down through your face. Let your cheeks just drop. Any tension around your cheeks, your mouth, just let it flow away. Now sitting in the chair, just be aware of our breathing. Just follow your breathing in and out. And just take a moment to feel your chest rise and fall. Chair supporting you, and the tension should be gone from your body. Just be aware of your breath coming in and going out. Normal breathing. Now if that feels nice and calm and relaxed, take a moment to try and capture that feeling. And remember, you can go there very quickly, quite easily, and have a state of calmness. So when you're ready, we're all going to come back into the room. If you've closed your eyes, open your eyes. If you're on soft focus, go to a sharper focus. Take 2 more changing breaths of in through your nose and out. And then start to look around and stretch. Ooh. Put the lights on so okay. Feeling a more relaxed state? Yes. Took me 5 minutes to do that. It's really a 10-minute exercise, and that it's called a body scan. You can actually download it off YouTube or the internet, but it's actually quite easy to remember. So that could help doing something like that, and there's quite a lot of things we do with a living well course. We do mindfulness, we do some meditation, but reducing stress is something that we perhaps take less notice of. We might think about doing a bit of exercise and doing the healthy eating and but actually reducing the stress is something. It can make physical changes in our bodies. Stress can get in the way of digestion, memory and concentration. How many of when you get really, really stressed, you think, I can't cope with this, I can't do this, I can't focus on this. Sleep, the body scan thing I've just done, you can use to help you go to sleep, because when you're focusing through, follow your breathing and focus on all those parts of your body, it stops you thinking about the fact that you haven't paid the gas bill and you haven't phoned Auntie Annie and blah, blah, blah. And then your immune system will actually be boosted by reducing your stress. Certainly, I believe reducing stress is one of the most important things to help your immune system. It's possibly one of the hardest things to do, but it's one that can help most. So, try to notice when you get stressed. I think the lady here said you could feel anxious, but you don't know why. Sometimes it's worth thinking, well, so what happened 5 minutes before I felt like that? What led up to that? Was it a series of events? Was it one thing? Was it just a song on the radio? Was it the next door neighbour banging to put a picture up on the wall? Was it just a thought that came in my head? And when you notice what you're thinking, when you feel stress, just remember, and I said this earlier, thoughts are not facts. We put lots of stuff into here and convince ourselves there are facts. They're not, they're thoughts. And once you learn, and it could be about the fact that you weren't invited to a party. Oh, well, they don't like me, blah, 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 blah. That's in your head. It's not a fact. It's probably just because they forgot. Or the room wasn't big enough or whatever. So what can help? There's a list of things here: painting, laughing, going out, talking, walking, shouting. When you are really, really stressed, a good shout at the top of the garden and a bit of a foot stamp and then back in the house, and yeah, that's fine. I feel that a bit. That can help. Music, different things help different people. Some people I know, you might like classical music, you might like relaxing music or chanting music. Some people like heavy rock type things. I'm not sure if it helps distress, but some people say it does. So finding the thing that helps you. Where to start? It's got 3 changing breaths here. In fact, I'm lazy, I only do 2. But actually those changing breaths can help just relax you that little bit. One of the things we do again on the course is imagery, where you imagine yourself in a favourite place. It might be a beach, it might be a garden, it might be sat on a log at the top of a hill. And just imagining yourself there can help reduce your stress. And noticing what's around you. What can I see? What can I hear? This thing you can do where 5 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can touch. And if you focus on those things, you can actually bring yourself to a lower stress level. Learning to meditate or doing mindfulness can help. Has anybody heard of Headspace?
Yeah.
No.
I've got a Headspace book here. Yeah. Headspace, there is a book, but actually it's an app. Everything's an app. You can get it on the internet, you can get it on a smartphone, you can get it on an iPad, other tablets are available. And if you have had any interaction with Penny Bron, if you've registered with us, if you contact us, you can go on the website and find this, you can get Headspace free, because Penny Bron, for a year I think it is, has an agreement with the Headspace app. And it's a very, very nice gentleman that talks you through a mindful approach to life. Does help a lot of people.
He's got an English voice as well, if that helps.
Yes,
sometimes a lot of things you can get an American voice and can be a bit irritating.
I think he's slightly Australian.
He was a Buddhist monk for a while.
Yeah, he has a twang, but you use Headspace, and would you recommend?
I use it a lot,
yeah.
They've got things now that are soundscapes. So if you're finding it difficult to get to sleep, it's less of a meditation. It's more of a soundscape. Then they also do things with kids, and I use it with my daughter a lot. She likes to say, "Can we listen to Andy now before I go to bed?" And it's at a level that they're.
So have you done? Because usually it's a free trial, and then you pay for it. I think it's £1 a week.
I've had it for years. So I must admit, before I had cancer. So
well,
I highly recommend it.
You can get it free for a year now. You've been in the Penny Bron thing, because that's how good it is. We think it's worth doing. So being kind to yourself. No, there's no point stressing about stress. I'm stressed. I'm going to be more stressed. So, Okay, so quickly then a summary. We have covered a lot today. There's the whole person approach. I'm not going to go through all these things, but those are the things that we feel we can work a little bit at a time on. We've done a bit of that today. We've done a bit on stress, a bit of emotions, a bit about healthy eating. George has done his exercise. So you've actually covered quite a lot in a short period of time. And say if you did any more courses with us, this is the sort of template we use. Anybody who does Facebook, and I know people are frightened of Facebook, this is a closed group. It's called the Staffordshire Living Well group. It means, as it's a closed group, you have to ask to join it, and you answer a couple of questions which are fairly simple. Have you got any involvement with Penny Bron? What are you expecting to get out of it? Just so we know who people are. There's nearly 100 members now, and it's moderated in that we don't allow people to sort of sell things on there. We might feature, I was talking to someone earlier, I'm about to do a feature on Tai Chi, what's available in Staffordshire, but we're not recommending anybody. We put up anything that we're doing in the courses, we put up recipes occasionally, anything that's happened like the carers groups or disability solutions, we've featured those in the past. So it's about the local area, it's a Staffordshire group, and it's about anything that might help you. I think there's information in your pack, but if you put Staffordshire Living Well, it'll come up on Facebook. Any other helplines? Penny Bron have got a helpline. We've also got a really good website, so there's lots of help on there. There's things like meditative practices, lots of recipes. Macmillan Cancer Support have got a helpline. We've got here if you'd like to arrange a call with your clinical nurse if you're involved. I think Jackie's sort of here, but she could pass information on to the other nurses. Is that right? That's the deal we're doing. So please do that. Can I just say thank you? You've been a great group to work with. I'm sure the other speakers feel the same way as well. And you've been very well behaved for the cameras, which is really nice. And we hope to see you again. So if you fill the feedback form in and give it to Liz, I think will give you your goodie bag, which has got various little books in there which are interesting and the guidelines for healthy eating, etc. Okay? Thank you, everyone.